Hey, welcome. Welcome to Occam's Razor. This is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through the best news aggregate for people who think just like me. I'd like to thank BCF for posting these live streams and for his tireless commitment to publishing a site every day for going on close to 20 years. And I see him being a little choppy again. I don't know what's going on. And sorry for being a little late. Of course, had some audio issues. Uh, for some reason, a security thing kept coming up, keeping me from getting on Blazing Cat Fur's site. So I had to do a full restart. And of course, when that happened, the microphone wouldn't work. So I had to fix that. Well, we're here now. So, did you know that Blazing Cat Fur has a news feed? Yes, he does. If you go to his blog roll section and you hit the live updates right here, you will get the daily news feed, especially if you can't wait for the next BCF post to tell you what's going on in this crazy world. And if you'd like to help this veteran, oh, what's going on here? What happened here? That's not supposed to happen. Let's go back. What's going on with their blog roll? Probably because I hit the wrong thing. There we go. All right, enough of that. Let's get on with the cold read through, do a quick reset, and ta-da! Oh, look, our link is up. That's more than what I was able to do. All right, now before we carry on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the YouTube. So if you want to follow the rest of this program, please. And we're back. Okay, sorry about that. Let's hope you were able to tune right back in. Now, News West Bank settlement will bury ideas of Palestinian state. Israel has announced it will build an enormous settlement in the West Bank to effectively bury the idea of a Palestinian state. About 3,300 homes would built. Oh, that doesn't sound right. About 3,300 homes built between Jerusalem and Jordan border under plans announced on Thursday. Oh, they would be built in direct response to British and French plans to recognize an independent Palestine. Critics fear the E1 project will effectively cut the West Bank in two, preventing a contiguous body of land that could form the basis of a viable Palestinian state. It's a mess over there, and a lot of people don't know the history of Judea or how this entire Palestinian state thing was basically pushed right from the Muslim Brotherhood. Polyev launches campaign to stop Carney's gas car ban. Yes, that's right, you elbows up crowd out there. You re-elected a government that has plans to take away your ability to be mobile across Canada by forcing you to get an expensive, inefficient piece of junk that could burst into flames at any time if it gets into a thermal runaway with its battery. Limited range, very expensive to charge, very expensive to maintain, much heavier than other vehicles. Everything about it is wrong. Everything about it doesn't work. Oh, it's great if you want to get around in the city a little bit, but even then, why would you if you're in a city when you could just take the bus? They don't want us moving around. They want to control us. They want us in those 15-minute cities. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is launching a national campaign to stop what he calls Prime Minister Mark Carney's law to end gas and diesel-powered cars in Canada, warning it will drive up costs and end rural life. Speaking at a prairie farm today, Poilievre and Conservatives will table motions in Parliament, stage events at dealerships, pressure Liberal MPs in their ridings, and circulate petitions. That's right. And they'll be circulating those petitions, getting around probably in an internal combustion engine. What does Putin want out of the Alaska summit with Trump? President Putin's talks in Alaska with President Trump on Friday will be his seventh U.S. Russia summit meeting since he came to power 25 years ago. 25 years. That's a long time. And even before that, he was involved in government, the KGB back then, I believe. It will, however, be the first to take place during a full-scale Russian invasion of a European country. Trump has already had at least 6 telephone conversations with Putin since he returned to the White House in January. Critics have asked why the Russian leader is being rewarded with summit on U.S. soil while his forces are attacking Ukraine. However, In Kiev, Mikhailo Podolyak, a senior advisor to President Zelensky, said that face to face talks with Putin would help Trump grasp depths of the Russian leader's irrationality and his desire to keep fighting, despite massive losses of his own troops. Well, that's pretty rich coming from Ukraine, who have killed all their men and are currently conscripting 60-year-old men. 60-year-old men! Ukraine has killed all their men, and they're talking about their massive losses of their own troops? The propaganda never stops. Families whose ancestors gave up indigenous status sue to have rights restored. In Vancouver, a proposed class action lawsuit filed in federal court says the Canadian government wrongfully denies people status under the country's Indian Act if their ancestors voluntarily gave up indigenous status under laws that predate Confederation. Plaintiffs Charles Wesley, Christopher Wesley, Sharon Nicholas, and Nicole Nicholas filed a statement of claim in Vancouver this month seeking damages from the federal government for being deprived of the benefits of status under the Act. The benefit seeking classes never stop in Canada. Canada's bleeding money, bleeding debt, increasing its debt constantly, and we continue to bring people in and offer them more and more benefits. And everybody's seeing everyone else get benefits, and they're not getting benefits, so they want to get benefits too. And for the past decade, they have, well, it's been more than that. They've been changing the education system, and this has been done through the mainstream media as well to make everybody feel like they are a victim of something. And if they're not a victim of something, then they're not looking deep enough because somewhere everyone is a victim of something and they require recompense. And that's why these things are coming up all the time. I want me benefits. I want me benefits. I'm entitled. I'm entitled to my entitlements. Everyone remembers that from Canadian history. And I was a progressive conservative back then too. I'm entitled to my entitlements. It's a fantasy to think that the USMCA will survive. As the Carney government tries to sort out Canada's relationship with the Trump administration, almost nothing has been disclosed about the scope, content, timing, or ultimate objectives of these talks, even though their outcome, whether success or failure, will be hugely significant for the country. What we got from Dominic LeBlanc, the minister responsible for the Canada US relations as he left Washington last week, was that Canada had a better understanding of the American concerns in the trading relationship, so we're prepared to stick around and do the work indeed. Really. Lots of poverty ahead, just what Carney and his cronies want, says BCF, and I fully agree. They are not going to sort out anything. Well, this guy's not going to sort out anything. Practically every other country on the planet has been able to make a deal with the US, but not our elected prime minister. Oh, by the way, this prime minister is so concerned about his constituents, he doesn't even have a constituency office yet. Can you imagine that? You're so proud about having the prime minister. Oh, they're saying, oh, we haven't found a place that can mitigate the security concerns. Hang on now. If you're representing the people, how come you don't trust your own people to keep it safe? Is it because you're falling into that trap where as soon as you get into power, you don't care how many people you piss off, so therefore, right away, your security becomes a problem because you decide to be a liar, try to go back on everything, not accomplish anything, and then people get upset with you instead of because it's what liberals do, right? They don't interact with those people. They will sell them a lie once to get them elected, and as soon as they get in, boom. Make me, my friends, richer. Because that's all he's been doing so far. He's accomplished nothing. Absolutely nothing. A massive failure in statecraft. He went to the EU. They rebuffed him because they didn't want the stink of him getting on him, ruining their deal with the US. He sent his trade delegates to Mexico. They got sent back in too because they didn't want the stink of Canada ruining their trade deal with the US. Because these politicians have been going out of their way to use the mainstream media, through the media fund that our taxpayers pay for, to use them to continually bash Trump in the media constantly. In fact, these clowns here have constantly bashed President Trump in the US, constantly, at every opportunity. Keep talking trash about him. That is not how you're going to get a better trade deal by pissing the people off that you're trying to get a trade deal with. Care what your personal feelings are. You should be able to keep those in check so that you can get a better deal for Canada. But no, no, no. You've actually brainwashed all your followers that you've already primed through your fear-based narrative from the COVIDity stupidity. So anything that you tell them to do, they march off and they do, because you can see it in conversations. Different people refer back to Trump. Oh, we had this problem. He goes, "Oh, you probably like Trump." What the hell does that have to do with anything that's going on in Canada? The only thing that Trump has to do with what's going on in Canada is this clown's refusal to try to get a deal. And why is that? Well, he doesn't care. What, 3% of his investments in Canada? Oh, sorry, 7%. 7% of his investments are probably in Canada. Most of them are not. And out of the rest of his investments, a largest chunk of his investments are in the US. And these are investments he's not even supposed to have. They're unethical. And talking about spending, it's hiring some more consultants, spending more money on that. Oh, yes, to make Canadians better. Every single thing that they do is for themselves and to make themselves rich. And so far, they have accomplished not a single thing. We've asked, like, what have they done? Have they accomplished anything? Goes, oh yes, they've given a lot of support to everybody. Yes, but for what? Spending more money, printing more money, again, adding to the debt that our GST doesn't even cover the interest payments on anymore. This is insane. Lots of poverty ahead. Exactly. Just what Carney and his cronies want. Kidnap, rape, convert to Islam, and marry underage Christian girls. Welcome to Pakistan. Harrowing cases of Mahak Siddiqui and Al-Shabaab Adnan exposed a deeply disturbing pattern of violence, exploitation, and systemic failure in addressing crimes against underage girls from minority communities in Pakistan. Barbar, son of Mukhtar, operating under aliases such as Ghulam Rasool and Muhammad Babar Ali, emerges as a serial predator who manipulates religious institutions to perpetrate kidnapping, forced conversion, rape, and child marriages. These acts committed with impunity and aided by accomplices including Muhammad Aftad, John Masih, and Karam Masih reveal a chilling disregard for human dignity and legal accountability. Borders, language, and culture. Doc Savage always said it best. This is their culture. It's inculcated in their ideology, and their ideology is inculcated from the first best-selling book in Pakistan, which would be the Quran, not to be confused with the second best-selling book in Pakistan, which I believe is Mein Kampf. And having operated in Afghanistan, where we used to get a lot of our supplies coming from the Pakistan border. Not all the jingle trucks made all the time. Every once in a while, they lose their minds and attack the jingle trucks and burn them to the ground. But really, it was just it was tribal. What was going on the border? They would use international reasons for it. Really, it was tribal. Pashtuns attacking Pashtuns, and those Pashtuns within Pakistan, they have some rather let's say, unfortunate ideological tendencies that upset a lot of Canadians who had to operate with them. And this right here is just the tip of the iceberg of the depravity that goes on in this culture. Yeah, doctors and lawyers, all of them, I'm sure. The tyranny of eco aristocracy. Environmentalism is the ultimate luxury belief. It's not becoming to boast, but I was an extremely early skeptic, when it comes to matters of, I call it, matters ecological. I'm having issues reading right now. What's going on? In 1990, I wrote a short play starring Leslie Manville, who has since risen to stellar heights for the Royal Court in London. It made a frankly biased, unreasonable, anti-green argument, which I have had no reason whatsoever to regret ever since. If anything, I feel even more strongly that environmentalism, which has now grown to include those adolescent maniacs who chuck muck over masterpieces, is the luxury belief to top them all. Indeed, it is virtue signaling. One of the Where's the virtue signaling brainwashing events going on the planet? Because it confuses people into thinking that what they're doing is saving the planet when actually it's just making other people rich. And they are brainwashing kids in school, have been for years, and believing that this tyranny is acceptable. Goldstein says Carney's energy minister makes business case for natural gas. Carney's energy minister makes business case for natural gas. What? They're making a business case? Oh, now that you've chased all the business out of the country, now you want to make a business case. Federal Energy and Natural Resource Minister Tim Hodgins says he knows there are buyers for Canada's liquefied natural gas. Globally, quite the change in emphasis from former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's argument that there's no business case for such projects. Where BCF says Trudeau is a monster, putting his ego before people. Carney is no different, an eco nut. Well, I would say a zero eco nut. Yes, he is. And we got told, oh, there's no business case for LNG. Well, we've missed that boat. We missed a big sale to the EU. We missed a big sale overseas to India. Somebody else filled those sales. I'm sure there'll be more sales coming up where people will need the energy. Better late than never, I guess. But too bad we didn't get those customers ahead of time. Why? Because the liberals are insane. Absolutely insane. They would put ideology before human life. And there are several examples over the past 10 years where they have arbitrarily not only unalived people, but forcibly unalive them just for money. Scrooge to be portrayed as a British Indian who hates refugees in new version of A Christmas Carol. We cannot hate Hollywood enough. We cannot hate all these far left maniacs who have taken over the entertainment industry. And, and most of them are pedophiles. Because look at this British Indian who hates refugees. Very nice. Like, why can't you just stick to the original classic? You want to redo it? Don't call it by the same bloody name. A Bollywood inspired adaptation of A Christmas Carol will star a version of Ebenezer Scrooge who despises refugees, the director has revealed. The musical, which is directed by Gurinder Shah and based on an 1843 novella by Charles Dickens, will feature a British Indian man named Sood as the lead character. He's described as a wealthy man who hates poor people and refugees on the basis they haven't worked as hard as him to get where he is. Yeah, I'll pass. Maybe I'll just the Bells of Saint Mary. That's that's a really good Christmas movie. Watched that several times before even using a picture of this to line my bird cage. More bad ads on TV and cable, the critique. I received such an outpouring of comments to my recent bad TV and cable ads article that I thought I'd give this another shot. Currently, there are so many bad ads, I had no problem finding truly dreadful examples. First, let's check out an ad campaign. Worked American Eagles ads featuring Sydney Sweeney, a popular young Hollywood actress. Now, so this whole Sydney C for jeans thing, I don't know, it's insane. I don't really care. Uh, People will use these things as a distraction from what's actually going on the planet. They spent so much time on her jeans, and was it Levi's also did a counter ad that was horrible, horrible ad. And why? Why are we spending all this time on this? Well, I guess they had to distract us from something. What was the left hand doing while this white hand was waving between these jeans? Captain Rolf Monteith, Canadian teenage volunteer who survived the Arctic convoys. Captain Rolf Monteith, a Royal Canadian Navy, of the Royal Canadian Navy, who has died at age 101, was one of the teenage Dominion volunteers who crossed the Atlantic to serve in the Second World War and one of the last survivors of wartime Arctic convoys. Inspired by a family Inspired by family holidays in Charlottetown on Prince Edward Island, young Monteith was eager to go to sea. In 1941, age 17, he volunteered for the Royal Canadian Navy and soon found himself on his first Atlantic crossing, not yet in uniform, aboard the armed merchant cruiser Laconia with convoy HX-147. The voyage was perilous, passing through wreckage from convoy SC-42, which had recently been mauled by German U-boats off Greenland. Many people don't realize that the merchant marines were massively taken advantage of. They went out there and they did the same job that the Royal Canadian Navy had to as merchant marines. The only thing is, of course, that they weren't armed, couldn't fire back. And at the end of the war, they got pretty well abandoned. They got, oh yeah, you were just a floater, you weren't actually in the military. But it says here that he joined the Royal Canadian Navy. Canadians are torn about whether to put their elbows up or down in the U.S. trade war, poll says. Oh, I guess the Canadians who are all elbows up are discovering that it's easier to attract flies with honey than with vinegar. Ottawa Canadians are split on whether Canada should go into trade negotiations with the U.S. with elbows up or down when it comes to the retaliatory tariffs, according to a new poll. The Leger Post Media poll suggested 45% of Canadians still believe Canada's position vis-a-vis U.S. President Donald Trump should be elbows up. That means that Canada should impose counter tariffs on all new U.S. border levies, even if it risks further retaliation from Trump administration. Watch, President Trump just made a bold statement. Canada does what we tell them to do. Oh, let's see if this works. Let's bring up the sound.
They respect your country again. They really respect this country again. They didn't respect it. When he said it, it didn't mean anything. But now they know it meant a lot. And Mexico does what we tell them to do, and Canada does what we tell them to do, because we have the two borders. We have the northern border, southern border, and they were both horrible. But now it's some people say it's a miracle.
Well, I could barely hear that. It was a very, very low recording. And here BCF says, I'm not sure faith in Carney is justifiable. Yeah, well, that's because Trump is a politician and Carney is not. And Trump understands statecraft, whereas Carney only understands the boardroom. And in the boardroom, as the CEO in the chair, he tells people what to do and they follow. That's the world he's accustomed to. He's not accustomed to a world of politics where people will have, every single person will have their own opinion. He didn't, I guess he didn't, it's because he didn't grow up in a real world. He was handed everything. Chaos at Canary Wharf Migrant Hotel as protesters claim migrant entered woman's home, but police let him go. Oh, yes, I saw this video. Quite troubling. He hasn't done anything wrong. He just entered my house on a. Oh, yes, but you don't know what his intent was. Dude, he just walked into somebody else's house uninvited. What do you mean? It doesn't matter what his intent is. That's the state of UK police these days. Chaos erupted outside a controversial Canary Wharf migrant hotel after a man believed to be staying there allegedly walked into a woman's house. The man is said to have entered the house after being followed by a group of men on the street and told to go back to the hotel where anti-migrant protesters are gathering outside. Oh, yeah, I got to throw in the anti-migrant protesters. The Britannia International Hotel is being used to house thousands of asylum seekers. Yeah, I don't even need to go to the article to see where this bent is going here. Anti-migrant protesters. Block everything. France braces for a September in flames. Oh, boy, is it going to be another month of barbecues? You didn't learn after the first 20 years of allowing a bunch of people in who hate you, having barbecues on a regular basis, having over 300 no-go zones where you can't even send in police, ambulances, or fire trucks. So what do? You bring more in. And then you hold a special month for them to burn the city down. Outstanding. The return of the political season could turn into a veritable powder keg in France. Since mid-July, the slogan Bleu tout, let's block everything, has spread like wildfire on social media, calling for a total shutdown of the country on September 10. The spark, the drastic cuts announced by Prime Minister Francois Bayrou, which include a 43.8 billion euro adjustment, the freezing of social spending, the elimination of two public holidays. Ooh, that's probably what's driving them crazy right there. And other austerity measures that have lit fuse of public discontent primed for years. Yes, well, I guess France is now realizing what Margaret Thatcher tried to teach everybody in the UK all those years back, that when you run an economy based on other people's money, you're gonna eventually gonna run out of that money. As happens in every state we have seen on this planet that goes batshit crazy, putting out all these social programs to take care of everybody so they can control them. Eventually, they run out of money. And then by that time, those politicians who made all those promises and felt really good and virtue signal people and now I'm going to give you all this care. Well, none of those politicians are gone. They've made bank. They've gotten their friends into business to feed off the trough like everyone else. They've made themselves money as well, and they're gone. And then other politicians come back in after this and then try to clean the mess up. And then, of course, everything goes bananas. And that is the end of the page. And there we go, half an hour. Uh, I sorry about the stop at the beginning, and I can see that I'm still having some massive uh, issues here on the broadcast because my face never even showed up. In fact, the entire show never showed up because it never transitioned to this. Imagine that. Another failure. Well, we'll see you next